Hello and welcome to Tech Smarter. My name is Abby Ritchie. I'm known as the Tech Guru. This is the show where we talk with innovators, operators, and investors that are actively changing the face of aging services. And if you happen to be a senior living operator or in charge of a caregiving company and you're struggling with all of the tech questions that your clients and your residents have, we want you to connect with us. We have professionalized this process and we would love to be able to help you. Now, I want to go ahead and bring my guest on today and introduce Carrie Aalberts, known as the Dementia Darling. Welcome back to Tech Smarter, Carrie.
I'm so happy to be here, Abby. It's always a gift to hang out with you.
It's wonderful. And I'm thrilled that you're here. And I wanted to share with you sort of the origin of why I've invited you back. So I was talking with some of my colleagues here at the Smarter service, and we are all sort of experiencing a similar dynamic that I know you are very familiar with. And that is that we've had to have certain conversations with our parents about when it's time to maybe take the car keys away, when it's time to have those hard conversations. And so we were talking about this in one of our meetings, and I was like, you know what? I think it's time to have Carrie back on to really help our listeners and people who tune in here to equip us with the right way to have the conversation and how we can possibly use technology to support having those tough conversations. And so thank you for being here. You know, I'm an avid follower of yours and a huge supporter. And I want to know, Carrie, how did you become first the Dementia Darling?
Absolutely. And yes, I'm so glad we're having this conversation. It's so needed. So my Dementia Darling origin, if you will, very quickly is my grandmother was unfortunately kind of catapulted into her dementia experience when I was 6 years old. So I obviously had no idea what was going on. But my dad became her family caregiver for the next 7 years of my life, and always really wondered like what kind of happened with grandma, and always gravitated towards seniors. So when I was able to go to college and focus my studies in gerontology and then more specifically in dementia care, it fit perfectly for me. And I was able to get both my bachelor's and master's focused in that. And then moving into the care settings of being, throughout college and then beyond being a caregiver, and then moving my way through these care settings and learning so much, and then also getting burnt out and going into the engagement care space. I learned, engagement technology space in care settings, like IN2Well is It's Never Too Late. That's where I started in that space. But through this time, I kept seeing the one thing that was this common theme. Caregivers are so alone. They're so isolated. Even though there's millions of them, they're isolated. And I just kept coming into the same situation throughout years and years of my work, was that I would be often the first person to acknowledge this when I would meet a new caregiver. And I'd say, are you okay? Like, has anyone asked you that in 10 years? How are you? Are you able to care for yourself? When was the last time you left the house alone? And just having these responses that broke my heart. And I thought, how can I cheerlead caregivers everywhere? And that's when I started about 7 years ago, Dementia Darling, on social media. And now, as of 2 years ago, it's my full-time job speaking and advocating for the dementia community.
Amazing. I love hearing that. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
And I want to understand, in the past 7 years, how much you've seen technology overwhelm this space.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And all at once. I feel like it's coming really fast now. Every day, Abby, don't you feel like there's a new app? There's a new something. And it's amazing. We need this. We need people that care in this space, but I can already see it's getting hard to wade through and know what's the right things. But I've just seen this burst into so much more than, I feel like before it was really centered on engagement, at least for my life. And now it's like into so many different things, which, incontinence, thing which, I love to talk about. Like there's actually tech in that space now. There's, these amazing safety tech features. There's apps that help caregivers. There's so much every day. But I think it's really difficult for both professionals and families to have the time and knowledge and even, where to start within all of this. It's hard, but I've seen it grow so fast. It's overwhelming.
Let me ask you, like, when a caregiver enters the situation, the relationship, what are, say, the top 5 pieces of technology that they are bombarded with?
Wow. It depends where they're at in their journey. But if we're just talking about, caregiving for an aging loved one, I think you're mainly bombarded with the navigation apps of figuring out care and things like that. And that can also be hard because, in caregiving, we don't want to take over everything at once, but we also want to prepare and make sure we have things in order. But then, there's such a fine line of taking over too much in the beginning and taking away autonomy. So having all of these options and then feeling like, well, I have to take over all of these things because that's what this, the app is saying or something, that can also be hard because it's like caregivers, they don't know what to do to begin with. And then now they are bombarded with all of this and what all the different apps are telling them, what to be doing and what to be looking for. It can be overwhelming. But I think, mainly these care apps and navigation apps for like families to stay in contact. There's so many of them, which are beautiful, but figuring out which one's the right one and which one to download and take the time to make an account for. And that's a whole other thing.
It really is. And, in my experience in doing tech support with older adults, I have received calls from adult children who've said, you know what, my dad, like, he just can't navigate on his computer the way he used to. What do you suggest? I want him to have access to his email, but not really to his bank account, for instance, and like being able to make changes like that. So, and it's hard to have that conversation with a parent. You don't obviously want to dumb it down for them, and you want to, like, in a sensitive way, say something like, you know what, you can get online, you can check your email, but I got this piece worked out for you. How have you found what works in having that type of sensitive conversation?
It's so hard. And these sensitive conversations, what we're talking about, these are starting conversations that people, I think, are beginning to notice they need to have. And then it kind of builds on top of that, right? And we won't even go to the other conversations people have to have, but there's a lot of hard conversations we have to have with aging parents. There's a lot that just kind of goes on, stacks on top of each other. So this is kind of that starting of, okay, I see changes here. Yeah. And especially when our person, they see the changes. We know when we're failing, struggling, we know as people, and we don't want to be reminded by other people because we feel like attacked sometimes. So being very aware and intentional with your words and coming from like I like to make it very much about like, oh, I've been struggling. These phones and like computers are so confusing. I can't keep up. And really doing the relating of like how hard things are and like how they're not alone in the struggle. Yeah. You're not alone in this. And I'm here to help how I can. Yeah. And just kind of making it like that partnership and really try to stay away from shame or feeling like you're, looking down on them or anything like, oh, this is so bad, I've noticed. It's all about the tone and the vibe that we bring and choosing the right times to have conversations. Feel the vibe out. When it's not the right time, but we can't keep putting them off too. And these kind of conversations don't happen usually in one pretty perfect bow conversation. It's usually over time, unfortunately, with any change.
Yeah. Especially with dementia, like yes, you're going to have the conversation over and over and over again. We're dealing with that with my mom, and it has been really challenging. And my sister has been the primary caregiver, and I am constantly in awe of how loving my sister is with my mom and explaining, why we're doing a certain thing and how, of course, we're here for you. And it's been really heartwarming to see my sister in that space. And, we recently have had the driving conversation, and it sounds like it's something we're going to have a couple times before any changes are, before we're able to make any changes. Do you have any suggestions to that?
Again, the relating.
Yeah.
And like, at least your person. Obviously, like some people you can't talk this relaxed to. I know some people's parents are very, straight laced and stuff, but I'm very chill with my parents. So in my sense, I'd be like, this sucks. This, like, I get it. Like, this is not cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no one wants to take this from you.
Mm-hmm.
No one is excited to take this from you. And I'm sorry, but we have to keep people safe, including you. And taking on, remembering that you're going to be a bad guy. You have to kind of be the bad guy in these situations, unfortunately, and it stinks. But you have to step into it and be like, okay, I'm doing this lovingly. And I don't like this comparison usually with, being a parent. But if you think about it, our parents told us no and took things from us when it was unsafe for us when we were young and we didn't understand or we didn't like it or what have you. And it's the same thing. We have to be okay with being the bad guy for a little bit. And unfortunately with dementia specifically, you might be the bad guy a few times over and over. And whenever, like Abby with your sister, if there ever comes a time when, the main caregiver can let someone else be the bad guy from afar, that's always a win for them. It's one less time they have to be the bad guy. So when you can do that for someone, that's big too. But just being real about it and being like, this is trying not to sneak around, because then they feel like they're really being like othered and maybe being treated like a child when we're not real with them. We just have to be like, yes, this is not cool. This is hard. You are a human being that has lived a full life, and now you're not able to have this freedom that we all have, and we get to leave. Like, that's not fair. This stinks. And you didn't choose to have dementia. You didn't, we don't choose to have these aging experiences. It stinks. And validating that is huge.
Yeah. Thank you. The other thing I'm curious about is just certain times of the day, right? I know sundowning is really challenging for a lot of people. And so just choosing the right time of day to have the conversation. Have you found that that's valid?
Yes. So your person. So when they're most their self. And on good, on those good days, and a lot of people are their best in the morning, maybe later in the morning when they've had food and they've been up for a minute. But later in the day, that comes a little bit more difficult. And with sundowning, even the name is misleading because it happens any time of day, honestly. Sundowning is really about our energy allotment. And if you think about it, if someone has done a lot earlier in the day, living with dementia, they have to give a lot more energy than we do for certain tasks. So if they're out of their, energy for the day by noon, you might not get their best self the rest of the day because you're getting what's left. You're getting just reactions and emotions because there's not energy to help manage those things anymore. So that's really where that happens. And so that's why we need to, support them best in going throughout their day to keep their energy, as best as we can, because when we get to that point, that's when it gets kind of difficult.
And have you noticed that it's particularly helpful, not just to be able to speak changes, but also be able to show a change? Like, in the case of driving, for instance, it's one way of communicating by saying, yes, this sucks. This is terrible. I totally get it. But look, I want you to see that. I want you to see, like, this is what the doctor recommended.
Yeah. And when the doctor can be the bad guy, like all the way. Like the doctor literally does, the DMV said, you don't have an ID anymore, ma'am, and we can hate on the DMV together, but we have to follow that. And yes, doing that and showing, nonverbal and verbal, both so important to show things and to remind. So if the person is living with memory loss, having that on, the door, if they're looking for their keys, or, where you would have their keys, usually with a note that says, we don't drive anymore.
Yeah.
Just a reminder, if you need to go somewhere, I will take you. And reminding them that you will do your best to take them wherever they need to go. And this isn't going to take away their freedom. You're still going to be able to do what you need to do. Mm-hmm. It's just going to look a little different, but I'm going to be now your chauffeur or whoever it's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. What other in-home technology have you discovered that makes a big difference in these situations?
Okay. In a lot of different situations, but I just thought right away, of Jubilee TV.
Mm-hmm.
I'm obsessed with Jubilee TV, and being able to check in on people, specifically like if maybe they're anxious and looking for their car keys and do not understand they can't leave, and you can check in through the TV and see them in a camera from the camera, and they don't notice you, but you can see, okay, they're safe, they're there, they haven't left, which is a huge thing, but also helping from afar with changing the channel, doing the volume is such a win, because how many of us have been so frustrated trying to figure out how to help someone with a remote? It's so hard. So that's a big one, but the safety aspect of that, and to be able to, you can speak through it too. So and they can talk to you through it if you wanted to, and say, hey, I'm so sorry. I know you want to go somewhere. I'll be there after work and I'll take you. I have your keys, or, what have you. So that was one I really love.
How about in-home sensors or wearables?
Yeah, there's some really good ones. I know there's a good amount of companies doing the sensors, which I have been really impressed with. Inspiring, Safely You, and a couple others that are just Sage, incredible. And I love sensors because you get so much data. And that can help with, baseline, where we're at. Are we having UTIs or going potty a lot? Things like that. How long people are in the room, help caring for them. So much wonderful data, but it's private. Yeah. You don't have a camera. You're not watching every move. I love that about the sensors. I think that is such a step up in the right direction. And again, just very powerful for people to look at, when we can just help people that can't maybe verbally say they're not doing well. We can look at that data, and that can help us. And then with the wearables, oh my gosh, there's so many different kinds. But I do, it's not just the life alert, we see anymore around the neck. I mean, there's beautiful pendants, there's beautiful watches that I love, but it's also, understanding that some people, deeper into their dementia journey won't press a button, won't know to press the button. So there's other ways. I really think it's amazing how you can get the shoe inserts on like Amazon where you can put inside the Apple tag, and that's in their shoe, and they're not going to find it most likely, because it's a big thing for people to take the things off that we put on them. So that's, looking for the different tech that, is a little different than the usual like style we've seen in the past, is going to just keep getting better and better, and people are going to want to wear them, which is exciting. But loving like Medical Guardian and some from Consumer Cellular, there's a bunch. And then also the another like way to GPS and them to have a smartphone is like the RAS smartphone for memory support. Love that. That's another thing. So really cool tech.
Really cool, really good tech. At all these conferences that we go to, we do see a lot of robots. How do you think robots are going to impact in a dementia setting?
I think first we have to be so intentional and smart about which robots we're putting around people, and specifically people living with dementia. And I think that we will see the engagement, the ones that are going to be telling jokes and doing activities. I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see more of the robots as well that help in the care space of like putting out, washing dishes and folding laundry. I think we'll see those, but I think they're, I'm seeing still people, and I'm glad, being a little hesitant about doing that in the memory care neighborhoods, like the ones, because I do see in assisted living, there's the ones that, take people to the rooms and tour people and things, which I think is really interesting. But I think we need to do some studies on how this is impacting people living with dementia. Is it disorienting? Is it helpful? I don't know. But we're going to keep seeing more and more of them. And some of them are incredible. I think the engagement ones will be interesting, but I think that's the most, I guess, realistic one to start with, I think.
Got it.
Personally.
Got it. And you mentioned earlier the caregiver apps. Are there some that really rise to the top for you that you want to talk about?
I love Tender Care and I love Ionic Care. They're both wonderful, wonderful companies that have created these, accessible apps that connect families. And so, you can see everything going on in your loved one's care, keep track of things, do scheduling, and people can pick up shifts to help and do all the things, keeping all of, notes and doctor's appointments together. That's gold. And those two companies, like, I truly trust. So yeah, Ionic Care is literally, it means I am not alone care. And they really help with all family caregivers. And then Tender Care is more focused on the dementia experience for caregivers. And those two are fabulous. There's also, there's different ones popping up all the time. There's one that I worked with that I really liked. It was free with the NIH. They came out with this, and it's Wise Patient AI. And it's where you can sign into all of yours and your family members' portals for your doctors and different areas all in one. And then it uses AI just to pull from your records. So you can be like at the doctor and say, when did I last have a colonoscopy? And then it'll pull that from yours. And it's like your own little file. And then you can have that for all your family members. So those things are so helpful for people to have.
Absolutely. And when you're looking at the future of AI, I know we mentioned earlier just some patterns and how those can be indicative of a UTI, for instance. What else are you seeing in regards to AI that's really supporting dementia care?
Oh, yes. I think there's just amazing ways that caregivers are using AI to, put in what's going on with their loved one, and it spits out, all the things that they can do for activities, or, what kind of diets and things like that. So utilizing the different apps that, like, I believe Tender Care, you can do things like that in. And I'm trying to think, but just with AI in general, I see caregivers doing that and putting it into ChatGPT and saying, this is what my loved one likes to do. This is when they, their years in college, maybe this is the music they liked. And then it can like spit out a whole care plan and activity plan. And that is, amazing. But again, making sure that caregivers know how to use AI safely and which ones to use, and not to put in certain information about our loved ones, and being careful with that kind of sensitive information that we're using, but using it for, I'm seeing people putting it in, when they can't get the doctor to understand what they're saying, or to get a legitimate diagnosis, they put in all their loved ones, like symptoms, and they put in, their experiences, and they're able to learn so much more with having that at their fingertips. But again, making sure we know to fact check and where we're getting it from. But it's helping on so many levels, because we don't know these things. And so to be able to put in, hey, my loved one is trying to get out the front door at 2 a.m., and being able to throw that in, and it gives really good advice most of the time, is pretty great. And I know there's a lot of apps coming out that will be that exact thing, is where you can just put in specific questions and it'll only pull from like dementia experts, which will be huge.
Yeah. I want to ask you, Carrie, in your 7-8 years of studying dementia and working as the dementia darling, and what have been some of your biggest aha moments?
Oh my gosh. I think every time I learn about color theory, I'm always like, what? Color theory in dementia care is really, really cool. But there's just certain colors that stick out in life.
Yeah. Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So our eyesight changes, our brains are obviously changing all the time, but people living with dementia, I mean, their brains are going through such a change and decline. And so we don't really know what happens in the brain. That's so complex. But there are certain colors that have shown in studies to really stand out and be more attractive to people as they go through their dementia journeys. For example, it's seen that the last color that's really noticed is like a lime green. So I really love, there's this project by Dr. Joshua Freitas. He's the one who I learned most of color theory by through the National Institute of Dementia Education, which I just got board certified with, so I can now teach it. And he did a program in Florida in their hospitals. They have it where if you have dementia, you get put in lime green socks. So the person sees it, and then it's protocol that everyone in the hospital knows they have dementia instead of
Mm.
the regular tan ones, because they were wondering why the people with dementia weren't putting on the socks. They can't see the tan. They couldn't see it. They
Wow.
couldn't see the tan or the white against all the other stuff. And so that's why, we see during meals, you often see in dementia care, we say, use a colored plate. Well, because if you put anything that's white or tan on a white plate, they're not going to see it and they're not going to be able to eat it. So, knowing these little things that can, change the way that they can show up to meals or show up to in the toilet, they might not see the toilet seat.
Mhm.
Everything is white. Or for example, black looks like a hole. So if there's a black rug on the floor, they might stay away from that like nobody's business because they think it's a hole in the ground, and rightfully so. They're also seeing that purple is really attractive. Pink is supposedly helpful for de-escalating and helpful for relaxation. I wish I had this when I was in caregiving. It maybe would have helped me not get hit. But there's just so many interesting things. Like he just did a thing where he put out different colored balls and no one touched the silver and gold. So now he's wondering if that's something they don't see. But that's like a whole thing.
Fascinating.
It is.
It's fascinating. And I've been asked this so many times, like, I need to get a new phone case. What should I get? And I always tell people, like, don't get a black case. Like, you can't see it. And our mind associates items with color. So if you know that you're looking for your red phone or your red phone case, like, you're going to find it faster if it's easy to spot across the room or it falls between, below the couch or something. Like, you're going to see it if it's colorful. Like, it's just a little hack, right? And all these things make a big difference, but a lot of people are not attuned to it. So I just love to understand more of that. I want to ask you, as we kind of wrap up today, if we're looking into the future of dementia care, what would you say are things in that 10-year outlook?
We have to figure out how we're going to care for people. We do not have enough people to care for the impending, all the people that are coming in that will need care in the next 20, 30, 40, however many years, the baby boomers. And it's frightening because robots can't do the care that we deserve, the person-centered care people deserve, in my opinion. And so I think we're going to see a lot of innovation in trying to balance that human-centeredness with care that's needed. And, being people in rural areas, I think we're going to see a lot of really amazing strides in tech for helping with healthcare across all places. I think that's going to be huge. But I think, the main thing is going to be how to support the care economy in direct care needs, daily, just activities of daily living, how we're going to help people with the lack of hands. So I think the tech is going to be all centered on supporting the care economy and just doing their jobs.
And if you could say something to a caregiver on any given day, what would be the most meaningful thing you can say to them?
Oh my gosh, that you're so amazing and so valuable. And you showing up is everything. And that I hope you also show up for yourself, because you are just as important as those you care for. And thank you so much.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Carrie. Carrie, how can people connect with you?
Please reach out at info@dementiadarling.com. Anytime, email me. I'd love to collaborate on making the world more dementia friendly. And please follow me on social media. I'm Dementia Darling across all the social media platforms. I'd love to connect with you. And and just let's make this world a better place together.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being my guest today. And for those of you who are joining us in the chat, thank you for your participation. We value that so much. And we also want to say thank you to Leading Age Arizona for sponsoring this episode. And we will see you all back here next week.